Two tails, one head. Yang yang. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. 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 To start out, we will read a brief, truly brief this time, Passage from the Inner Teachings of Taoism. The Essentials of Self-Transformation According to the Complete Reality School of Taoism, with a commentary by I-ming. 24 Essentials for Students. See through things of the world. If you cannot see through the things of the world, you will sink into an ocean of suffering. How can you get out? Cut off entanglements. If you cannot cut off entanglements, the vicious cycles of compulsive habit stand before you. Thoroughly investigate principle and meaning. If you do not know how to discern the principles of body and mind, you cannot distinguish aberration and sanity and miss the road. Find a teacher and associates. When you empty the mind, you can fill the belly, emptying the intellectual human mind and filling the belly of the Tao. If you are self-satisfied, you will grow old without development. Make determination endure. If you want to accomplish something that endures unchanging, it requires work that endures unceasing. Get rid of anger and hatred. If you do not sweep yourself clean of anger and hatred, you will be full of turbulence, which will obscure the truth. Relinquish attachment to the physical body. See the physical body as something temporary and artificial, and naturally there will be a way to seek the real body. Do not be afraid of hard work. With strength of mind, one will be able to climb to the summit. If you are afraid of hardship, you will never enter the real. Tolerate ignominy and endure dishonor. Tolerate ignominy, and though lowly, you cannot be surpassed. Endure dishonor, and through yielding, you can be strong. Forgive people and defer to others. It is essential to humble oneself and honor others. Equanimous deference is a good method. Take possessions lightly. Take life seriously. Ask yourself, even if you pile up mountains of gold, can you buy off impermanence? View others and self as the same. Others and self have the same source, without high or low. If you discriminate between them and us, you raise dust. Do not be deluded by alcohol or sex. If you do not drink, your nature will not be deranged. If you are chaste, your life force will be stable. Accept hunger and cold as they come, dressing and eating according to circumstances. Stop idle imagination. If you are afraid of hunger and cold, your will won't be firm. Leave life and death to destiny. Two things, death and life, depend entirely on nature. The one will to seek the way is always up to oneself. Do whatever you can to be helpful. Wherever you are, continue to perform worthy deeds. Seeing danger, exert your utmost power to help people. Do not take a liking to excitement. It is easy to lose the real in the midst of excitement and glamour. In the realms of the senses, you can derange your essential nature. Do not be proud or complacent. Arrogance arouses the hatred of others. If you are self-satisfied, you cannot bear the Tao. Do not crave fine food. Superior people plan for the way, not for food. Inferior people nurture the palate, not the mind. Do not talk about right and wrong. Everyone should sweep the snow from his own door. and not be concerned about the frost on another's roof. Do not use intellectual brilliance. If you have talent, do not employ it. Always be as if inept. If you have knowledge, hide it, appearing to be ignorant. Sleep less and work more. Working by day, cautious by night, effort never ceasing. Giving up sleep, forgetting to eat, the will must be firm. Do not take a liking to fine things. Pearls and jade, gold and silver are things outside the body. Vitality and spirit, essence and life are the fundamental treasures. Be consistent from beginning to end. If you work without strength, it is hard to reach deep attainment. Only when you die embracing the Tao do you see reality. These 24 essentials are important passageways for students which must be put into actual practice. When you have passed through each one and applied them in your life, only then can you meet a real teacher and hear about the great Tao. If there is even one that you cannot practice and get through, even if you meet a real teacher and hear about the Tao, it is not certain to benefit you. The teacher's function is to polish away errors, to clearly perceive and subtly test the student and see whether the student is genuine or false. A genuine, sincere person is like real gold, which has no fear of fire, become brighter the more it is refined in the fire, being appraised by an expert, certified and accepted. Someone without will may start out diligently, but eventually slacks off. Outwardly obedient, yet inwardly refractory. Such people will greedily fantasize about the treasures of others without being able to carry out their own tasks. This is what is called not getting rid of temper, not changing the attitude, falling into the sea of vicious circles. Even if you accumulate vast hoards of gold and jade, the spirits and immortals will laugh coldly and will not respond. Such people cannot even hear the way, much less accomplish it. Those who hear the way are small sages. Those who accomplish the way are great sages. The affair of great sages is certainly not within the capabilities of empty obscurantists. The bottom trigram on our hexagram is solid, broken, broken. This is the trigram. Zen, thunder. Thunder is shock, upheaval, and the spark of the new. In old Chinese belief, thunder slept in the earth over winter and erupted from it in spring, awakening living things into new growth. Thunder is our basic drive for renewal. He inspires initiative and decisive action. He is the stimulus that sets things in motion. He is the eldest son in the trigram family, the first connection of heaven, potential, with earth, realization. Yang makes itself known here, emerging into the field and beginning to grow. Thunder belongs to the east and to spring. Our top or outer trigram of our hexagram is broken, 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 or open, open, open. This is Kun, earth. Kun is earth, open to receive and support what comes to her, providing for its full development. She makes inspiration manifest, gives it form, and sustains its growth. Earth is available to be used, ready to lend her strength to the work without limit. She protects and accepts all things in their totality, present and potential, in an unconditional embrace. Earth is mother, found in the southwest and the harvest time of late summer and early autumn. Kun Earth above Zen Thunder gives us the hexagram 24. We'll be getting our definitions from the Taoist I Ching by I-ming. He wrote this in 1796 as a Taoist adept. Hexagram 24 is called return. Return of consciousness, of reality. Activity obeying the mind. We did not receive any 3 heads or 3 tails in any of our roles, so that means that we don't have any changing lines, which means that we don't have a supporting hexagram. So our primary hexagram is emphasized highly when we consult the oracle and ask a question of the I Ching. That question is going to have the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time. We'll start out reading from Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future, which I find to be almost like a beginner's I Ching commentary. And then we will get into James Dekorne, who synthesizes various commentaries on the I Ching and gives his own helpful editor's notes. He being a practitioner of the Tao himself, I find that his editor's notes are some of the most profound things in the readings. And then we will move on to the Taoist I Ching by I-ming in 1796, which is highly alchemical in nature and often very helpful. Hilary Barrett calls our hexagram 24 returning. Key questions. What is just beginning to germinate? How can you follow your sense of direction more closely? Where might the path lead now? Oracle, returning, creating success, going out, coming in, without anxiety. Partners come, not a mistake. Turning around and returning on your path. The 7th day comes, you return, fruitful to have a direction to go. Your journey leads you out and home again through the turning points on your way. The vigor and authenticity return in the still moments of those turning points. Life regenerates from the roots and light returns. By walking constantly to and from your source, you participate in a two-way flow of creation. You go out and rediscover your own way. You return through an open door to your home and relationships. This is a living motion, like breathing, that revitalizes and restores. Relaxed and spacious, it allows time for the path's natural meanderings, never creating resistance. Since you are in motion, helpers of all kinds come, traveling companions who walk alongside you for a while. If someone is meant to be with you, you will never need to leave your path to chase after them. Just as any road can be traveled in 2 directions, your path also leads back out and back again. And so, in the fullness of time and following a natural progression, there comes a moment to turn around. Through all this going and coming and starting afresh, it is good to have an overarching direction and purpose to guide you. The quality of returning is alive, growing, and dynamic. A good time to rediscover your own deepest intent and its harmony with the Tao. Image. Thunder dwelling in the center of the earth, returning. The ancient kings closed the borders at winter solstice. Itinerant merchants did not travel. The prince did not tour the regions. In winter, nothing moves or grows. Thunder dwells quietly at the center of the earth. When spring comes, it will surge up and rouse everything to new life. But at present, it is barely beginning to stir. Winter solstice Darkest moment of the year is when light just begins to return. The ancient kings cared for their people as the earth covers a dormant seed. They contained people's impulse to rush out and resume business as usual, so that the energy for growth would not be squandered in the depths of winter. This is the turning point on your path. A moment to be still and turn inward to listen for little glimmerings and inklings of awareness, to nurture the seeds of a personal sense of direction. Sequence. Returning follows from Hexagram 23, stripping away. Things cannot be completely used up. Stripping away comes to an end on the outside, and there is turnaround on the inside, and so returning follows. After the last firm line leaves the 6th place of Hexagram 23, it returns in the 1st place of Hexagram 24 on the inside. Things move in cycles. Whenever old growth is stripped away, it is making space for new shoots. And now we will turn to James Dekorne. I've left links to his site, which synthesizes multiple commentaries on the I Ching all together in the description box below. So feel free to check that out yourself as well. I'll only be reading specific things that I feel helpful, so there'll be more that you can read if you find that site on your own. He calls Hexagram 24 return. Other titles might be the turning point, the symbol of returning, revival, recovery, to repeat, renewal, restore, return to the way, cyclic repetition, and a quote from D.F. Hook, return to virtue or happier conditions. Leg, in the judgment. Progress and freedom of action are found in return. Goings and comings are unimpeded, and friends approach without error. Return to repeat the proper course. 7 days returns the cycle to its beginning. There is advantage in choosing one's path. Wilhelm/Baines, return. Success. Going out and coming in without error. Friends come without blame. To and fro goes the way. On the 7th day comes return. It furthers one to have somewhere to go. Blofeld, return, success. All going forth and coming in is free from harm. For it is only when the whole series is completed that we can understand the reasons for many things, death, winter, and so on, which at the time seemed unproductive, negative, or positively evil. Friends arrive and no error is involved. They return whence they came, spending 7 days in all upon their coming and returning. It is favorable to have in view some goal or destination. Lu, return, success. One goes out and comes back in without harm. Friends arrive without blame. Going to and fro is the way. Returning on the 7th day, it benefits one to go anywhere. Return or revival signifies a bad time becoming better. Anyone receiving this hexagram should prepare for a great opportunity. Ritzema/Karcher, returning, growing. Issuing forth, entering, without affliction. Partnering, coming, without fault. Reversing, returning one's Tao. The 7th day coming, returning. Harvesting, possessing directed going. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of something that is re-emerging. It emphasizes that going back to the starting point in order to begin anew is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the times, you are told to return. Wu, renewal is pervasive. He who comes and goes will have no error. Friends come without harm. The course repeats itself. In 7 days, one cycle of reversion completes. There will be advantage to have an undertaking. The image. Leg. Thunder in the middle of the earth, the image of return. Thus, the ancient kings closed the passes on the day of the winter solstice to prevent travelers from pursuing their journeys and princes from inspecting their states. Wilhelm/Baines, thunder within the earth, the image of the turning point. Thus, the kings of antiquity closed the passes at the time of the solstice. Merchants and strangers did not go about, and the ruler did not travel through the provinces. Blofeld. This hexagram symbolizes thunder in the bowels of the earth. The component trigrams in this position suggest thunder coming from under the earth, but the trigram of thunder also means to sprout or quicken. It is this concept of a quickening within the earth that makes this hexagram generally favorable. The ancient rulers closed the passes during the solstices. The solstices were times for solemn sacrifice. It has always been the practice in China for people to return to their homes for the celebration of the great yearly festivals. Return in this sense is highly auspicious. And the merchants were unable to travel. Even the rulers abstained from touring their territories at those times. Ritzema/Karcher, thunder located in Earth's center, returning. The earlier kings used culminating sun to bar the passages. Bargaining sojourners used culminating sun not to move. The crown prince used culminating sun not to inspect on all sides. Commentary. Confucius/Legge, return shows the coming back of the dynamic principle. His actions show movement directed in accordance with the natural order. Such is the movement of the heavenly cycle. The dynamic lines are growing and increasing. Do we not see in return the mind of heaven and earth? Legge, return symbolizes the idea of coming back or over again. The previous hexagram showed the ascendancy of inferior forces when all that is good in nature or society yields before what is bad. But change is eternal, and here we see the beginnings of recovery from the former situation. Return is associated with the time of the winter solstice when the sun begins its journey back towards summer. In harmony with these cycles in nature are the cycles in human affairs. The dynamic bottom line is the first line of the trigram of movement, and the upper trigram is that of docility. The dynamic returning line will meet with no resistance, and all the magnetic lines above it will be transformed into allies. The bright quality will be developed brighter and brighter from day to day and month to month. In 7 days brings return refers to the idea of a new cycle commencing when each of the 6 lines of a hexagram has changed. The 7th line, or 7th day, begins a new cycle just as Sunday begins a new week. Thunder in the midst of the earth is thunder shut up and silent, just about to make its presence felt. So it is with the first stirrings of life after the winter solstice and the first returning steps of the wanderer to virtue. As the spring of life has to be nurtured in quietness, so also the purpose of goodness. Wilhelm, the hexagram of return applied to character formation contains various suggestions. The light principle returns, thus the hexagram counsels turning away from the confusion of external things, turning back to one's inner light. There in the depths of the soul, one sees the divine, the one. It is indeed only germinal, no more than a beginning, a potentiality, but as such clearly to be distinguished from all objects. To know this one means to know oneself in relation to the cosmic forces. For this one is the ascending force of life in nature and in man. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. The work is recycled, perfected and refined over and over again. The superior man pauses before he begins anew. The mention of 7 days in the judgment and the winter solstice in the image tells us that the hexagram of return deals with cyclic progression. A quote from Max Kattelmark in Lao Tzu and Taoism. In the I Ching, the hexagram Fu, signifying the return, 1 yang line beneath 5 yin lines, is the symbol of the rebirth of the yang. At the winter solstice, the yang seems to have disappeared, whereas the yin is at its full. But this is the moment when the yang is reborn and begins its return. Symmetrically, at the summer solstice, the yang is at the apogee of its power, while the yin prepares to return. The alteration of yin and yang is a going away and a coming back. 7 days is 1/4 of a lunar cycle and the module upon which a week is based. The Sabbath day is the 7th day and a day of rest in the Hebrew tradition, as was also the day of the new moon. The closing of the passes in the image is another expression of the idea of resting at the beginning of a new cycle. To refrain from activity at these times was a sacrifice and a spiritual obligation. The concept behind it is the acknowledgement of one's source, a review of the past cycle, and a meditation upon the new cycle just beginning. Psychologically interpreted, forces in the unconscious psyche demand a pause before their dance can resume. A quote from Gershom Scholem in Kabbalah. A special atmosphere of solemn celebration surrounded the Sabbath, which was thoroughly pervaded with Kabbalistic ideas about man's role in the unification of the upper worlds. Although the Chinese observe no Sabbath that I'm aware of, the idea of a rest at the commencement of a cycle is clearly intended in this hexagram. In terms of the work, one eventually becomes aware of cycles and rest periods, even if one never noticed them previously. When one learns how to synchronize conscious awareness with these inner rhythms, the tempo of the work begins to accelerate. There is advantage in choosing one's path, as rendered by Wilhelm as it furthers one to have somewhere to go. The idea is that when you are consciously on a path, the cycles begin to work in your favor. Instead of a monotonous round of inconclusive and random events, one's life takes on structure and purpose, and inner progress becomes discernible. Another quote from Max Kaltenmark in Lao Tzu and Taoism. Conforming to the rhythm of the universe is the prerequisite of wisdom in all Chinese thinking. But the Taoist mystic has greater ambitions than his ordinary compatriots. The question for him is not merely of adapting his ritual and hygienic observances to the alternation of the seasons. He intends to escape from the determinism of life and death by transcending it. This is what enables him to attain inner emptiness. He does not merely witness the return of all creatures to their origin, he precedes them to that origin. Every line of this hexagram refers to returning to the proper path, so the hexagram can imply that perhaps you have strayed from the work to one degree or another. Without changing lines, which is how we rolled it, it can mean to rest at the beginning of a cycle or to get back on course. Reattune yourself with the current phase of the work. A quote from Black Elk. You have noticed that everything an Indian does is in a circle, and that is because the power of the world always works in circles, and everything tries to be round. In the old days, when we were a strong and happy people, all our power came to us from the sacred hoop of the nation, and so long as the hoop was unbroken, the people flourished. We will now turn to the Taoist I Ching by I-ming, written in 1796 as a Taoist adept. Again, he calls hexagram 24 return as well. Return is developmental. Exiting and entering, there is no ill. When a companion comes, there is no fault. Reversing the path, returning in 7 days, it is beneficial to have a place to go. Explanation. Return means coming back. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is earth, obedient. Below is thunder, active. When activity obeys the mind, the heavens turn in their course while human affairs proceed successfully. Also, in the body of the hexagram, one yang moves below a group of yins. This is the first return of yang energy. In both senses equally is the path of return, so it is called return. This hexagram represents the return of yang within primordial yin. It follows on the previous hexagram adornment, Adornment is being clear-minded and resting in the proper place, thereby to nurture clarity and operate the fire to gather primordial true yang. Gathering true yang is the path of returning yang in the midst of yin, reordering personal affairs by which one can appropriate the creativity of nature and comprehend life and death, so that return is unfailingly developmental. Though the path of return is developmental, nevertheless, people accept the false and neglect the real. Most do not know the return of the real. If you know it, it is near at hand. The mind of Tao appears. The human mentality retreats, and you can exit and enter the midst of yin and yang without being adversely affected by yin and yang. It is necessary to know the timing of return. It is not to be forcibly sought before the proper time, and should not be missed once the time has come. Only then can one find the real. When people are first born, they are all good with no evil. Then when they get mixed up in acquired conditioning, yin injures their yang, and there is loss of original natural reality. But even though it is lost, it is never totally non-existent. There still is a breath of living potential within. This may appear at times, but people do not recognize it even when it does, because they are deceived by personal desires and confused by worldly affairs. To return it, restore it, it is necessary to take advantage of times when this living potential appears and set about quickly gathering it. Only then can it be one's own. If the living potential has not yet appeared and you keep to quietude and empty silence, how can it return? Thus it returns when a companion comes, and only then can one be without fault. The character for companion is written as a conjunction of two moons. One is yang and one is yin. When yin culminates, yang is born. There is yang within yin. This is called a companion comes. If yin does not culminate, yang is not born, and the companion does not come. If the companion does not come, yin and yang do not interact. Then where would creative energy come from? Therefore, it is necessary that a companion come for the living potential to appear. The living potential appears with the interaction of yin and yang. Gather it and put it in the furnace of creation, and in a moment, calamity turns into blessing. Punishment turns into reward. Before there was fault because of loss of true yang. Now that true yang is restored, one can be without fault. But though one can be impeccable by restoring this, the way to do it involves work in an orderly fashion, restoring it gradually. One cannot restore it immediately, or even if one does restore it immediately, it cannot be stabilized. It is necessary to first refine oneself and master the mind, waiting for the time to act. Therefore, reversing the path, reality returns in 7 days. Reversing means turning around and operating in reverse, away from progressive conditioning, back to the original integrity of the real mind. 7 days is the number of the yang fire. The energy of harmony of essence and feeling in people is the yang fire. This is the real. The restlessness of acquired energy in people is the yin fire. This is the false. The real completes life, the false injures life. Reversing the path means first reversing this false fire so as to return to the real fire. In 7 days, the yang fire arises and the yin fire dies out. Utterly empty and silent, within black there is white. The primordial energy becomes manifest from within nothingness. Gradually gathering and refining it, one can crystallize the restored elixir. This path is not difficult to know, but it is difficult to practice. When you know it, it is most important to practice it. If you know it but do not practice it, that is tantamount to not knowing. Having a place to go and promptly setting about cultivating it, it will surely return gradually from a single yang until 6 yangs are pure and complete. What can compare to the growth and fruition of that return? We'll now read a randomly card-drawn chapter from the Tao Te Ching to close things off. '27. A good walker leaves no tracks. A good speaker makes no slips. A good reckoner needs no tally. A good door needs no lock, yet no one can open it. Good binding requires no knots, yet no one can loosen it. Therefore the sage takes care of all men and abandons no one. He takes care of all things and abandons nothing. This is called following the light. What is a good man? A teacher of a bad man. What is a bad man? A good man's charge. If the teacher is not respected and the student not cared for, confusion will arise, however clever one is. This is the crux of mystery.